Good afternoon, and I'm your talk show host, Terrence Perry, and you are watching Lifelong Learners Talk Show. And on the other side of me is my producer, Amnon. How you doing?
I'm doing just fine, Terrence. How are you?
All right, man. You ready to get this show on the road?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, we have not only an exceptional guest today, but we have a beautiful guest today. So let me go ahead on and introduce our guest today, Sandra Hardy. Sandra, glad to have you.
Thank you, Terrence. I'm glad to be here.
All right, and Sandra is our image consultant among her other titles and duties. She's also the CEO of Bootz to Heelz, which we'll talk about that some today. And also, we're going to be talking about entrepreneurship. We're going to be talking about image consulting, and also we're just going to talk about how you get involved in starting your own business, how becoming a CEO, what that feels like, and also we're gonna hear a little bit about Sandra's testimony as to why she even wanted to start her own business. So we're going to get into some of those questions today. But before we do, I want Sandra to just take a minute to tell you all a little bit about herself. Let me back up before that. If you want to call into the show today, if you have questions or any concerns that you want to share today, you can call into the show at 919-518-9773. We're taking calls. Any calls about entrepreneurship, you can ask myself or Sandra. We'll be glad to share what information we have with you. So, Sandra, if you don't mind, with no further ado, would you just kind of give us some insight into who you are and what you do?
Oh, sure, Terrence. Well, who I am. I am a military veteran. I had 21 years of military service, some active, some National Guard time. 20 something years of HR experience, human resources experience, 30 something years of supervisory experience. And I currently also am a Mary Kay senior consultant. And I also am a independent consultant with Arbonne, and I am currently the founder of my new company, Bootz to Heelz, which is a brand and imaging company.
Sandra, you are a lot of things. But I do want to concentrate some on with the Boost to Heels, your new company that you start, and but also let me just back up a minute to I want to kind of ask you a little bit about how you got involved in the Mary Kay consulting business. What gravitated you to that business, and how long have you been involved with the Mary Kay consulting business?
Well, Mary Kay Consulting has been a business that I first started using the product around 1995, 97 timeframe. And I loved the product so much till I started as a consultant in it. What I do love about Mary Kay is that it allows you to work your business in the means that you can. And when I say the means that you can, I was a single parent with a small child. So there were times when I could really put forth a lot of effort to it, and then there was times where I had to back up and maybe use it as a part-time job versus doing it as a full-time. And so really once my son went off to college and got to the point to where he can handle himself, I started doing it on a full-time basis. And so that's where I am as far as Mary Kay go. Mary Kay is an awesome company. Their motto is God first, family, and then your business. So that made me gravitate towards it as well because that's my motto. That's where my foundation. So to me, they were compatible.
Okay.
So it made it easy for me to be able to sell that product because and also it allowed me to touch women and to help women in their transition, because a lot of times women don't realize how beautiful they are, and it just sometimes they just need to see it.
Yeah, that leads me into my next question, because as I had looked over your profile, and I saw where you had talked about your ability to transform men and women. You said men and women, and to help them to see their beauty, and that's one of the ways that you help to transform them. So, how does that tie into the Mary Kay products and also the Bootz to Heels work in the business that you're starting now, in terms of helping people change their life through just seeing their beauty?
Well, with Mary Kay, it's because sometimes, well, more with women than with men, they don't really get to hear a lot of times how special they are, or how beautiful they are. And depending on how they grow up or the environment that they were exposed to, they have a low self-esteem. So sometimes sitting with someone and actually working with them, teaching them how to bring what's inside of them out, helps them to see their beauty, help them to see that they are beautiful. And then to hear somebody say, see how beautiful you are, that can really mean a lot to someone who don't get that often or every day. It really builds up a person's self-esteem. And when your self-esteem is up, you tend to be a better person inside and out. So that's where I touch, and I just look at my business as a ministry, and I call it a marketplace ministry, where you go out and you're touching people, and in touching them, you're spreading goodness to them through your products. So it's not all about money. It's about reaching that person at their lowest point and bringing them up to their highest point. As far as with Bootz to Heels, that is a brand and imaging company, and it's more tending to lean towards personal branding. Everybody has a personal brand. They don't know it. Some don't realize it, but personal branding is basically how someone views you. When you come in contact with people, how they that contact is left on that person. And so whether or not you managing your personal brand or you just letting it manage you, that's where I help people come in and, one, understand what personal branding is, understand what imaging is, and then help them to mirror what they see or think that they're projecting and what people are actually seeing.
Okay. So this is one of your quotes, and it's not your personal quote, but it's one of the quotes that I seen that you follow, and I want to I think that kind of segue into the work that you do. When you say, you say, don't be afraid of being different, be afraid of being the same as everyone else.
That's right.
Is that, so why does that stand out in your mind?
Well, I think it stands out because even when you're trying to build a business as an entrepreneur, you're going to need mentors. You're going to need people that are moving in the same direction, may not be the same venue, but starting a business and being able to have someone to talk about and to bounce ideas off of. But you have to be careful not to become a mirror image of that person, because at that point you lose your identity and therefore you lose your personal brand. There's something unique about each and every one of us, and that's the whole thing, is especially about personal branding. It's showing your uniqueness in what you're doing. So there may be several people or companies that's doing the exact same thing that you're doing, but they're not you. There's something that you're bringing that they can't. There's some knowledge or training that you have that they don't. So it's just getting people to see that and understand what it is that you bring into the table about with your business in order to get customers to come your way.
Now, in the business world, we call that your secret sauce, your recipe. So, getting back to Bootz to Heelz, and you as the CEO of that company, as you just alluded to, what makes you different? What makes you stand out? What makes your business? What's going to make your brand different than anyone else? What is it about you, Sandra Hardy, that's going to be different than the next imaging company?
Well, one, as far as skills go, as I said before, I have a BA and a master's in human resource management. I've have over 20 some years of human resource experience, and I also have over 30 some years of supervisory experience and managing experience. So on the skill side, I do understand what employers are looking for, what it is that they're how to help you connect on the employer side. As far as my uniqueness go, I think it's a genuine care for what it is and a love for what it is that I'm doing. So when I'm working with somebody, I am working wholeheartedly and trying to bring the best out of them that I personally can. It's not, I don't look at them as a dollar sign. I don't look at them as how they're going to make me rich. I look at them and what it is that I can do to bring them to their highest point of success. And to me, if I do that, then I've done what I'm supposed to do. And I think sometimes, a lot of times, companies get lost in the numbers and the money, and they forget about the person. And you should never forget about the person, because the business is all about that individual that's sitting in front of you that's trying to get to that next level.
Okay, so you're saying put the person always first, and the business will strive and
right.
flourish on its own. But
That's right.
keep the individual first and foremost.
That's right.
Also, you have spoke about your self motivation, and also your self discipline and your faith in as you've started your own company.
Mm-hmm.
So and I wanted to kind of ask you, how have that helped you to make that leap from working for somebody else to starting your own company, and just not being afraid to, well, I won't say not being afraid, because I know oftentimes when we do start companies, I've started some myself, I did it in fear. I was a little scared, but I did it anyway. What motivates you enough to want to do it anyway?
It's the whole idea of having something that you've birthed yourself, something that you can leave to your children and in your children's children. It's that legacy that that I want to be able to leave. The fact that I've touched someone's life, and this company is an experience of that and a growth of that. And being able to do that is just trusting God that what He's giving me, the vision that He's given me, that He's already set the resources there for it. I just got to keep moving. I got to walk on faith, whether or not I see it or not. I just have to believe that He didn't put it in my heart just to sit there. So action without faith is dead. So, so I have to keep moving, and I think too that sets an example for the youth in my family that maybe I started later, that they can start theirs earlier, and that you don't always have to work for somebody else. There's joy in putting that energy into your own business.
So, would you say that you put, I guess, your faith first? Would that first and foremost, it's been your faith that have inspired you to take that leap of faith?
Yes, yes. That'd be safe to say that. Yes.
Okay.
And I think it's all a process. You can't just you gravitate towards it, and you do certain steps to move towards a full-time basis of doing your own business. There'll be times when you have to work someplace else and do your business, but you still can't lose the goal of where you're trying to get to. And that's ultimately to be at a full-time with your business, doing the thing that you love to do, your passion. And my passion just happens to be people and I think that works for me.
Okay. And I know in the past, I mean, like I said, I've started a couple of businesses in the past, and I had also worked a full time job. So, what and the reason I did part of it was I worked a full time job I had to pay for the business that I was starting, so I needed the income in order to do that. My grandfather didn't leave me $1 million to start another
Right,
company with,
exactly.
so I had to, I had to work
And do that.
and
That's
to
right.
build that business. But at the same time, I kept a full time job as I built the business. And once that business got to where it generated enough income on its own, of course, I was able to leave the full time job and and transition to the business that I had started. And for most people, that's the way you have to do it. Some people lose
Exactly.
sight of working a job to start their own company. They can't they
Can't
either
balance.
right, they can't find that balance to do both, and they never take that leap where they won't invest in themselves. I'll put
Yeah.
it like that, because it is an investment,
Yeah.
and like you said too, is having that faith to invest in yourself,
Right.
invest in your dreams, your ideals, and what it is that you really want to do. It takes an investment, and if people see you investing in yourself, then certainly they're gonna invest in you. But also, it goes back to what you said too about you wanting to help people, and you put that person foremost in helping them. And once they see that, then they're gonna gravitate to you. So that brings me to my question is that, and it asks, well, I'll ask you like this: what was it, I guess, inside of you that made you want to help others, wanting to make others feel beautiful? Because often, and I ask that because I know when I started even this type of business, I started it because, like I said, when I was growing up, I was a stutterer my whole life. So up until a certain point, once that stuttering subsided, I asked God to take it from me, and He did, and I was able to do, to do shows and just talk freely. I wrote books and did speeches and such. I wanted others to understand that they could do the same thing with their faith or with their dreams or whatever it was inside of them that they wanted to do, to know that they could do it. That's kind of what motivated me. So I want to kind of know what motivated you to want to get involved in image consulting and helping others to feel beautiful about themselves.
Well, I just think that looking back on when I was growing up, and um, I think a lot of times young women get caught up in being self-conscious. With my height, I was always the tallest one in the class, I always knew that I was going to be tall, and for a while that bothered me. And I didn't really have, my mom, she was great, but she was short. So I always wanted to be like my mom. I wanted to be short because I thought that was, better than being tall. Because being tall, being in the back, kids pick at you because you were tall. So you had to go through, as I went through all that, and then as I got older, I started to realize that there's really nothing wrong with being tall. Actually, the short people wish to be tall. And so it's kind of this, short want to be tall, tall want to be short. Nobody's really happy with what it is that they're doing instead of just being happy with who you are. And I think the more my faith grew, the more I got to know and love me for who I was. None of that really mattered. It was what I loved about me. So regardless of what anybody else thought about me, I loved me. I know God loves me, and He doesn't make mess. So in knowing that, I was able to build myself and my own self-esteem and my own image. And so it saddens me when I do see girls who don't get that, and they're very self-conscious about how they look. And I can go up to them and I can say, you know what, I used to be just like you. I used to be worried about my height as well, but look at me now. I got on 3-inch heels and I'm happy, and so will you. You will be happy too with your height. You will love yourself. And then, and I always try to let them know that they're beautiful. You're beautiful, because they need to hear that so that they don't grow up to be adult women having the same insecurities about themselves. So when they hear that, then they believe it themselves. And sometimes even parents don't realize that you should do that. You should encourage your children to, and tell them about how beautiful they are, or how, handsome they are if they're a male child. Um, and then growing up, as far as for a woman, then you get to touch their lives and tell them that now. So it's not always been a part to where I was enjoyed who I was, but now I am. And so with my business, helping people to achieve the goals that they need to achieve, to mirror up their image, help them to see what others are looking at, because sometimes you get blinded by your own sight. You don't see what others are seeing in you. You don't recognize that there may be things that you're putting out that is not conducive to where you're trying to go or the image you're trying to portray. Right. So it's important to have somebody to help guide you in that, especially if you're trying to be a entrepreneur, because the people you come in contact with, you either going to leave one or two impressions. One, they're going to want to come around you again, or two, they're not going to want to come around you again. And word of mouth is a very important, very powerful advertisement. So it can either make you or break you.
That's certainly true. But also sharing your story, just like I said, your backstory. I think that oftentimes, and I've talked with a lot of entrepreneurs who are way further down the road than we are. They've said always tell your backstory, your personal story, because once people understand why you do what you do, then that's what they gravitate to. So they understand that, like I said, about you wanting to help others to find their inner beauty and outer beauty. But in that process, that was something that you went through. So that's why you're able to share that with them and to let them know that not only is it something that they're feeling and going through, but it's something that you went through and you felt too. So, but it lets them know also that they can get beyond that and be in the same seat that you're in, or be who they are or who they want to be, and not hide behind fear or feelings of not feeling good enough, and those things oftentimes hold us back. So I appreciate you sharing that.
No.
I know you have a event that's coming up April the 1st.
April the 1st, yes.
Can you share a little bit about that event coming up?
Thank you, Terrence. I am hosting a Mary Kay skincare class on April 1st from 3 to 5. It will be at 6600 Six Forks Road in Raleigh, North Carolina. Please come, and we will have an awesome time. I'll teach you about skincare and also help you to find that perfect foundation. And we can set up to do personal color, so that we can get you ready for the summer and the spring.
Okay, so that's going to be on Saturday, April the 1st.
Saturday, April the 1st, yes.
And what time?
From 3 to 5.
3 to 5?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Starts at 3.
All right. Also, I know you you're co-hosting the talk show on Facebook, Let's Talk Relationships.
Yes.
So how do you like that involvement and talking about relationships? What's your take on that right now? How's the show going?
I think the show is going great. I think we're building up more and more members to our Facebook page, and it gives an outlet for people to be able to communicate. Sometimes they don't know the questions to ask, or they don't know who to ask them to. And so when we go on and we're talking about different issues and different topics, and people can chime in through typing on the Facebook, it gives them an outlet of speech, something to ask, hey, well, what about this? Or how about that? And then we can answer that those questions. So I think that that's a much needed show that we do, and I think it's only going to grow.
Okay. What about your new company, Bootz to Heelz? When is the, I guess, takeoff date for that, or are you all have you put your team together? You all are working on moving that project forward to launch by the expected date.
Well, I'm currently working on my website and also my logo and getting the little intricate details out. So I'm looking to launch it within the end of the summer, about August time frame, to have everything up and running. I am actually working with someone right now as a pro bono, and once that is done with, I don't want to mention name or anything right now, but she'll go on my website and be my first person to testify how great the company went, hopefully. But everything is going great with that, and so I just know she's going to be great in her event that she's going to do. We're working with everything, every part of it, and so once it's done, it's going to make me feel really good to sit there to watch her succeed. So I'll be glowing like she's glowing.
All right, so just where you let people know how they can get in touch with you through social media for the Mary Kay business, and like I said, you got the event that's coming up on Saturday, April the 1st. But just how can people get in touch with you through social media? I know I've seen you're on LinkedIn, I see you on Facebook, any other social medias, and
I'm on I'm on Twitter, and I'm LinkedIn, Facebook. You can my Mary Kay website is www.marykay /SHARDY 1997. So in those different areas you can find me. Like I said, you can just go into Facebook and just type up Sandra Hardy, and I'll pop up on that.
Sandra Hardy, pop up, okay. Well,
Yeah, I'll just.
Amnon, any questions? You got any questions for?
Do you have a name for your website yet?
Yes, it is Bootz to Heelz.
Good day.
Okay.
BootzToHeelz.com.
BootzToHeelz.com. But it's not up yet, so if they go to it, they're not gonna see it yet. But yes, it's gonna be Bootz to Heelz, BOOTZ to Heelz, HEELZ, Bootz to Heelz.
All right. Well, I want you all to look for BootzToHeelz.com. That's coming up, and also Sandra Hardy with the Mary Kay cosmetic and consultant line. She's also having an event on Saturday. Sandra, I appreciate you coming today. Feel free to come back anytime that you wish, particularly when you're, I guess, the latter part of the summer, when your launch date of the business.
Great.
Be sure to come back and let us know how things are going with you and what we can do to promote, what you're doing. Again, we'll be back next Tuesday, 2 o'clock. You guys, I appreciate you joining us. Thanks, and I'll see you all next Tuesday.
You're tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section on nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Atomos.com, makers of quality video recorders and converters, CarolinaApparel.com, and DeltaForce.net.